So the technology that you're going to see today incorporates all of this information. What we did was we started from very primitive prototype in our lab that was gigantic, it was expensive, it was functional, and we were able to do our initial studies. And then over a period of years, we began to refine this process and finally put it into something that someone could use in their home. But what we want to really know is, this is all intellectually interesting. What we really want to know now, though, is what effect does drinking this water have on the human body? What we want to find out is that when we drink this water, is it indeed making any change within us? And that's what we're going to take a look at. So let's go to the video.
Most people think that radiocarbon has been used to date rocks. Whenever they think of radioactive dating, they think of radiocarbon because that's what they're used to hearing. But radiocarbon isn't used to date rocks because most rocks don't have carbon in them. And what we need is organic carbon because it's intrinsic to the methodology or how you understand how radiocarbon works.
How does a tree then get carbon-14 in it?
Well, it's simple because the radiocarbon is produced in the upper atmosphere. Cosmic rays bombarding the Earth's atmosphere turns nitrogen atoms into carbon-14 atoms, which circulates into the carbon dioxide that we breathe. Mm-hmm. And so it's also taken in by the plants during photosynthesis. So it's in the wood, it's in the leaves, it's in the vegetables we eat. Animals take it into their bodies, so it's in the animals that we eat. So it gets into our bodies. So not only are all these plants around us radioactive with radiocarbon, but we are ourselves.
So you have it, I have it.
Correct. And as long as we live, we're taking more radiocarbon into our bodies. But when we die, we stop taking radiocarbon into our bodies. And so a dinosaur dies, it stops taking in radiocarbon, and then over the thousands of years, it's getting less and less radiocarbon. And as I said before, after 90,000 years, there should be no radiocarbon left in dinosaur bones. If every atom of the Earth was radiocarbon, it all would have decayed away in less than 1 million years. So if you already believe the fossils, dinosaur fossils, the coal beds, all those things are millions of years old, you wouldn't expect to find any radiocarbon in them. And yet you do. And this is one of the things that we found when we studied petrified wood like this at different levels in the geologic record. I was doing research on this. I was collecting samples in England, in Australia, and I sent them to the radiocarbon laboratories, and sure enough, they had radiocarbon in them. So this is another aspect of this whole time question, because if these things are believed to be millions of years old, like this petrified wood, and yet it has radiocarbon in it that says it's only thousands of years old, then it means that it calls into question the conventional time frame. And so we wanted to test this because we'd seen in the literature, this is in the conventional literature. In the 1980s, they developed a new methodology for measuring radiocarbon. They could count atoms of radiocarbon. That's how good it was. But they wanted to be sure that they weren't getting any contamination in their laboratories. And so they took samples like petrified wood, they took samples of dinosaur bones and coal and oil and natural gas and limestone even, and they put them in their equipment, and every sample they tested had radiocarbon in it. And this was reported in the literature, and they ignored it. So in our research, we decided, well, we'll test that for ourselves. We wanted to be sure that, this wasn't an artifact of a conventional experimental method. So we selected samples from 10 different coal beds around the United States, some coal beds that were conventionally as young as 40 million years, some coal beds that were conventionally over 300 million years old. And when we tested them for radiocarbon, they had radiocarbon in them, and they all yielded the same radiocarbon age, which meant that these plants must have all lived at the same time and died at the same time. And that fits the flood paradigm, because these would have been pre-flood trees that were all buried together at the same time. But we went further. We thought, okay, let's test out some material that's come from inside the Earth that's got carbon in it. So we selected diamonds because diamonds come from deep inside the Earth. Remember the volcano that we were at?
Yes.
The SP crater? Well, from inside the Earth, we have these volcanic eruptions that bring diamonds up. They're made down deep inside the Earth, which means the diamonds have never been in contact with the atmosphere until they're brought to the surface. Because carbon-14 is produced in the atmosphere, we wouldn't expect them to have any radiocarbon in them. Because also, they're the hardest substance known, so they can't be contaminated. So even when they arrive at the Earth's surface, you're not going to exchange carbon-14 in the atmosphere with carbon in the diamond. So whatever the diamond brought up from the depth has been bottled up and locked in. So we tested the diamonds. We got several diamonds from Africa, and every one of those diamonds yielded radiocarbon at much the same age. It was detectable radiocarbon. Now, we presented this research at a conference, the American Geophysical Union, one of the largest bodies of geologists that get together. We had a poster presentation, and unbeknownst to us, one of the scientists that saw our presentation of the diamond evidence was from a radiocarbon laboratory. So he went back to his own university radiocarbon laboratory, got his own diamonds, and reported similar results to what we had found. Here's the sticking point. The diamonds are supposed to be between 1 and 3 billion years old. That's the conventional age. For them to be only thousands of years old flies in the face of the conventional wisdom. So again, this is an illustration. You know, we did our own sampling, got our own laboratory results, and verified what was already in the open scientific literature for several decades, whether it's petrified wood, coal, dinosaur bones, the shells of shellfish, they all contain radiocarbon, all through the fossil record. And so that tells us that these layers aren't millions of years old. When we're talking about radiocarbon, these radiocarbon results, we're talking about an Earth that's only thousands of years old. We're talking about trees being buried in coal beds all in the 1 year during the flood. That's why they gave the same age. Then that's radically different from the conventional paradigm. They've excluded God from the picture. And that's why they can deliberately choose to ignore the evidence. It's not that the evidence isn't there, it's that they've chosen to ignore it.
One of the reasons why we wanted you to see that clip was because in science, sometimes people, they hold on to a belief even when new evidence is presented. It's called having dogma or being dogmatic, right? I lived in California for 14 years, and there used to be a saying in California is, don't let my karma run over your dogma. So it's not good to hold on to a belief so strongly in science where you're not open to seeing new information. There's always new things that are being learned, and we should be open to exploring these things, even if it flies in the face of what's long been established as scientific fact. That's the way we're going to explore and learn new things and expand. So let's take a look at this now. Previously, people might have thought, well, okay, light therapy is all about stimulating the body with light with some type of device. In our cases, it's with patches. But this idea that you could actually release light inside of the body and embed water, which goes everywhere, with light. This is an entirely new concept. And undoubtedly, there's going to be some skeptics that will say, no, that can't be possible, but we've actually proven that this is what's going on here. So we have a total of 7 human clinical studies now, and we've completed 4. The 5th one will be completed, I hope, this month, and then we have another 2 that are in process. So we took the initial study that we did and learned an enormous amount of information from it. And then from there, we began to modify the study to see what else that we could learn. So in the first study that we did with this light water, do you guys like the name light water better than lobster water? Okay, all right. So the first study, what we wanted to do was cast a huge net. And we essentially wanted to find out, well, what's going on in the blood, in the urine, what's going on in the bioelectrical system in the body. Normally, when you do studies, you cast this big net the first time, and then there's little pieces of gems that come out. You don't expect that everything is going to work correctly. You're going to expect to learn one or two pieces of information and then refine the study and kind of go from there. In this case, that's not what happened. We did a blood study in this first study with dark field and bright field microscopy. That showed changes immediately after consuming this water. We did a urine test, and the urine test was to look at changes in the metabolism. Now, I'm going to show you some of that data today. And the metabolism data was simply to look at what rate are amino acids being metabolized and used in the body. If we want to have a technology that's going to upregulate mitochondrial function, alter gene expression, it's going to increase the rate at which we heal, we would expect to find that in metabolic data, in urine testing. So we did that, and we did find that. We had people connected to a physio suite. We looked at their heart rate, the heart rate variability. We looked at EEG. We saw changes there. We had people sitting in front of an infrared camera, and we had people drink this water. Now, what we were looking for was to see if people were in pain, and you can see the inflammation on the infrared, if drinking the water would get rid of their pain. What we didn't expect to find is that when people drank the water, we would see light coming out of their throat. And this showed up in some people on the infrared. Now, when we have a new product, of course, we want to see how long is it going to take for people to respond to the product. So most of you are probably pretty happy that people respond to X39 in the first 24 hours, right? Yes, or I thought you'd be happy about that. Okay. In this study, and bear in mind, X39 is our flagship product. So the idea here is that we can have a technology not only to stimulate the skin with light, but now to take light in the body, and the two are working in harmony. So could we see that people's results with X39 would even be faster than 24 hours? Well, we had one person in the study. We had in these 4 studies about 80 people. One person out of the 80, after drinking the water, responded within only 2 minutes. Yeah, it's one person, I know. 79 out of the 80, we saw changes in the heart rate variability and the EEG in 15 seconds. So we were very excited about that. So let's take a look at this now, and we want to see what happened in the urine data. So we got statistical significance, and actually Dr. Caitlin Connor just sent an email 2 days ago saying on the new study that they just did, they got statistical significance on that, so it reaffirms the data that I'm about to show you here, and we actually learned some new things. So the first amino acid, and I want you to look at this from the perspective of looking at a pattern that's forming, because that's exactly what happened here. Each one of these amino acids that gets upregulated in the body is a sign that that amino acid is being used, but what is it telling us about exactly what's going on? So the first one is sarcosine. And sarcosine, it shares properties with glycine. And what's interesting is that it's used to improve cognition. So when you drink this water, one of the effects that people report is a rush of energy up into their heads. That's sarcosine being metabolized and turning on the brain. And if you think about this another way, bioelectrically, if we're releasing light into the body, the big users of electricity in the body are the heart and the brain. The heart and the brain have massive electrical fields. So you could look at it another way. What happens is you drink the water, the light increases the electrical field and electromagnetic field around the heart and the brain, and this triggers changes in the metabolism, and we see sarcosine being utilized as a symptom of expansion of consciousness and improved brain. So expect to have improved memory, focus, processing in the frontal lobes from drinking this water. Okay, serine is another amino acid that we saw, and interestingly enough, serine is related to cognition. So here we have another pathway. So apparently when you drink this water, it makes your brain work better. What else could be going on here? Now, I've got some good news for you, some great news when it comes to you X39 fans, because glycine, which is used in the manufacture of copper peptide and glutathione, gets upregulated when you drink this water. That means people will get better benefits when using X39. Now, not only that, but your lifespan is directly correlated to your body's levels of glutathione. We know that copper peptide declines with age, so the higher your copper peptide levels, the longer that you live. If we had a technology that could prevent us from aging, what you would expect to find is that it would help support your body's levels of glutathione and copper peptide, and that's exactly what we found. Now, the next one was valine. How many athletes, athletic enthusiasts do we have here? I would hope that we would see all of your hands go up, but okay, you can't win them all. For those of you that aren't exercising, please exercise. Okay. We're going to do some studies, by the way. We're doing some studies with this water, and we're going to try to get exercise down to 10 minutes a week. We're going to try to do that. So stay tuned for that. Okay. I'm serious, it's possible. Okay. So one of the signs of aging is sarcopenia, a loss of muscle. We also see, of course, a loss of bone density. The two of them are connected. And the branched chain of amino acids, leucine, isoleucine, and valine, if we had a technology that could stop, prevent, reverse aging, one of the things we would expect to find is an increase in muscle protein synthesis. That's exactly what we found. Valine metabolism gets upregulated, and also very interesting, I don't want to make a claim about this, I'm being eyed right now, valine is associated with lower blood sugar levels, and it's also indicative of an increase in growth hormone. So I'll let you draw your own conclusions as far as what that means to people that are going to be using the water. I have my attorney looking at me right now saying, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it. It's our 20th anniversary, I can say it, right? All right. Okay, histidine, another amino acid, and what's interesting about this is histidine is part of carnosine, and of course carnosine is composed of alanine and histidine, and we know that that is associated with longevity. So we increase our body's levels of carnosine. It's been shown to increase lifespan by 30 to 40%. So again, here we have another indicator by releasing the correct wavelengths of light inside the body, we can turn on mechanisms associated with longevity. Not surprisingly, along with histidine, we find alanine metabolism getting upregulated as well. And of course, we know alanine is not only associated with carnosine, but also AHKCU, or what we want to upregulate with X49. You drink the water, it makes X49 work better, in addition to X39. Leucine. Okay, so leucine is another branch chain amino acid, and this was the big one because leucine turns on mTOR, and mTOR, of course, is associated with muscle protein synthesis. We're doing a study where we're going to take athletes and give them, hopefully, the same exercise program, same amount of protein, but what we're going to do is give them this water, and we're going to compare the difference in the amount of strength, stamina, and muscle that they can gain. But what we're going to expect that we're going to find, based on the results of this study, is that as you continue to feed the body more protein and you have the stimulus there, that the body will gain muscle mass very rapidly. I did my own anecdotal experiment with this, and I'm convinced that it works. So this could end up being, water with light, could end up being the most powerful anabolic ever created. There's a little bit of a market for that. Methylhistidine, this again is a sign that tissue is being broken down and new muscle tissue is being formed. So we have every indicator here that this product is going to be phenomenal for athletes or simply anyone that wants to push off aging. But you do have to eat right, you do have to get your essential nutrients, and you do have to exercise. Proline. So if we want to stop and reverse aging, we have to reverse what happens at age 25 with us. At 25, the body begins to shut down production of collagen. So of course, by the time we get over the age of 70, it's very difficult to heal. This water upregulates collagen production. So we can expect to see reduction in lines and wrinkles. We can expect to see faster healing. Again, when all the nutrients are there. And then this was a huge one, which, again, this is one of these things when you do these studies, you cast a wide net, you see what you find, so it makes the studies expensive, but when everything turns out the right way, you're really excited about it. So this is the KP pathway, and this was the big one because it's indicative of an increase in NAD production in the cell. And for those of you that aren't familiar with this, David Sinclair at Harvard was given about $1 billion in funding to try to find a drug to turn on NAD. Because NAD has been found, when you upregulate it, can reverse at least part of aging. So again, we have another indicator here that you drink this water and it is stopping and reversing parts of human aging. And there's a lot more for us to explore here. And that's just the beginning. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. You guys want to see the machine? Let's see the video of the machine first, shall we?